All right, so we just finished the Union Raid on day one. We're pretty much done, and as per usual, the guides that we have used on the teams that we use and this general strategy, I'll be talking about it. Probably just give a reminder for some people, because like these bosses are basically just kind of like a repeat of basic of all the previous bosses, so we kind of know already. So if you guys actually just look at the Union Raid guide sheet, there's gonna be like some notes already about the different bosses if you look at the previous Union Raid, because yeah. But I'll just like run through them again just in case some people don't know, and I'll also share the teams that we have used. So here is Thermite B. In general, you want to avoid using sniper rifle or rocket launcher because this boss has a debuff that increases your charge time by 300%. So Alice, Maxwell are bad options against Thermite B, which is the first boss. But so majority of us actually use like Scarlet, Summer Anise. So we use the just in general, you can do this boss without ever needing a healer. And so the way we kind of just did a little bit more offensive is we use like Scarlet, and the typical combo Summer Anise Scarlet, and then Summer Anise with Brevity and Dorothy with Brevity. These are kind of like synergizing with one another, and then Novel is just like an extra damage booster, right? And so the general strategy for this boss, just destroy the parts immediately, because those are kind of pesky, annoying thing. You want to destroy that by the first burst. Usually most people should be able to destroy during your first burst those body parts and get that out of the way. But you can use Scarlet and Guillotine without any healer here. And what you would do is whenever there's like the boss is targeting, there's a red circle on these like turrets, shooting turrets thing, and just you can try to take cover on using either your Scarlet or Guillotine, and you will basically just use your cover to avoid that damage. You're gonna have to do it like probably like, you know, somewhere around half of the fight, so just to kind of keep your Scarlet alive. So that's how we did it. But if you don't want to do that, if you're lazy, you can use the bunny girls. But we think that using the bunny girls was a little bit of a waste actually. I think we could have saved our bunny girls on other places, but it does make Scarlet and Modernia deal a lot more damage with the bunny girls and litter. So that's the team. And if you want, you could also no one used it here, but you could also use Guillotine with Summer Anise, Volume Mass, and then like you can use like on the last spot you could use like Noise to taunt or something like that. But again, like I said, you can completely do this run without any like healer or taunt or anything like that. The boss basically deals almost like 0 damage or low damage. So yeah, that's Thermite B. Assault rifle and machine guns are good at it in general, but yeah, we used Summer Anise because we wanted to use the other units for other bosses. So now let's go to Cucumber. This boss is basically free for all. Like any unit is pretty much valid to use. You could use sniper rifle, assault rifle, machine gun just to do core shots, because this boss, he only has core shot. And some people typically would need a healer to make it like painless, but some those that are high level enough didn't. But this is where the bunny girls were kind of useful. But if you don't have the bunny girl, Helm is also a good option, or like Rapunzel or Summer Mary, just to heal you, top you off a little bit. So basically it made it a lot pretty much painless for us to just kind of go through this boss by just having a healer. And it was pretty much like auto. With the bunny girls, you just like let auto do its thing. All right, Cucumber is a pretty rather straightforward. The boss is weak to water, but there's not really that many, you know, good water units. So this is where like Dorothy wasn't as popular as we wanted, but some people decided to be very daring not bringing a healer. I think it's fine. Alice technically kind of sort of self heals herself, so I guess that's one thing that people have done here. But in general, I think it's just a lot easier by just bringing a healer. But you can completely cover it if you want, if you're high level enough. But if you're not high level, then yeah, healer. Now, next boss is Land Eater. It's pretty easy. This boss is like damage padding. If you guys are trying to race points against other of your guildmates, Land Eater is one of the best ways to damage pad and brag that you can do a lot of damage. But anyways, this boss is basically do a lot of parts damage. Just keep destroying the parts and you're gonna be able to just like pad a lot of damage. So you want consistent damage on the parts, and this boss is water, so it's weak against electric. So there's two different teams on it. One is the Dorothy team comp. So typically we use Dorothy, Summer Anise, and Alice, and with Privity and Novel. I think that's this one, or some people do some sort of mix of that. Another is the electric team comp. So we have a few people that did the electric team comp here. I one-shotted, but obviously I'm level 380, but I one-shotted the boss with my electric team comp with Volume Mast and Summer Anise, Guillotine, and Scarlet. But other people have used differently. So they did use like Guillotine with Summer Anise, Dorothy, Mast, Privity. So that kind of different combination. So since people are using Dorothy's here, this is where also they decided to use Summer Anise, because Dorothy, Summer Anise and Privity go hand in hand, and Privity and Dorothy go hand in hand. So that's usually how kind of like the team building ended up happening. And some people who had electric team comp ended up using their electric team comp. Now, some people might be wondering, like, how can you survive without like a healer? Some of us are like we just dodge the boss mechanics, because the boss mechanics, like near the end, it will show he will target, and we just use the cover. But if your cover is not enough, then that usually means you're under leveled, then you might need a healer in those situations. But otherwise, it was a relatively pretty easy boss fight. Just keep swapping back and forth on the boss parts as he's walking around, and you just damage pad with that. Next, here we go. Rebuild Vulcan. So I talked about this last Union Raid. If you guys haven't seen this Union Raid 7, I talked about it on the Union Raid boss guide. I talked about Rebuild Vulcan, so I'm not gonna go through that again. You can just watch that. But the idea behind it is you really want to make sure that you have your burst ready when the boss is putting up the shield. And so the idea behind it is just make sure you have burst ready, or maybe you're ending like your early burst and then just starting another burst again afterwards. Ideally, this is where we primarily used Alice team comp. It's pretty much Alice, because like Alice has like a good damage burst throughout, like whenever she's bursting, along with Maxwell. So Bunny Girls, Litter, Maxwell, Alice are good. Alice with Modernia, and some people have decided to use like their Dorothy along with Alice and Privity and the Bunny Girls. And you might wonder like, oh wait, Privity with the Noir is not really that synergistic, but I think it's fine, because you can also just you have Privity there to kind of neutralize whatever Noir's increasing on you. And actually I found it pretty easy. I like that team more, because I managed to burst with Alice, and then then Nor burst, and then Alice burst by just like within the first 30 seconds, 40 seconds. and I basically had Alice burst by the time the shield was up. So I think I kind of like this one more. If you decide to use litter, you might end up having to either delay your first or your second burst, or I guess like you just kind of you just keep bursting, I guess, and then eat the initial burst. I guess if you cannot destroy the shield that fast, then yeah, that's when just keep bursting as fast as you can. But this is where we pretty much exclusively use Alice, but different combo. Again, you guys can see with Maxwell, with Modernia, it's really just all these things. And I think I talked about using Snow White in the other video, so you guys could like explore using Snow White and see if that works out with you. But Rebuild Vulcan is like, this is probably the biggest wall. If your guild is not prepared for it, then you're gonna need to put in a lot more like people on it. So I would recommend like using like have your big DPS definitely to deal with the Rebuild Vulcan, just so that you guys don't throw so many like bad teams on it. Because like if you throw bad teams on it, that's just gonna dip your damage by a lot. All right, last one is Stormbringer, and this one is a very easy boss. At the very least, from our perspective, it was kind of very easy. But I mean, if you end up needing a healer, just bring a healer. It's that rule of thumb. But otherwise, you can just like you use Pierce units. So Snow White boss is electric, so it's weak against iron. So Snow White Maxwell is the best team comp on it. I did the 2.1 bill hit here, obviously again high level, but I basically barely just kind of cleared it. But this is the 2.1 bill team: Litter, Snow White, Maxwell, Novel, Modernia. That's like the 2.1 build that I did at level 380. What level am I? 388. Okay, there we go. I totally forgot. But this is where people does get creative a little bit also, because some people like they want to save their litter and their novel, for example. So they decided to use like volume and helm, summer helm instead. So this is when you guys can start using also summer helm to kind of like make it easier, or you can use Miranda and summer helm. So and then use Maxwell and Snow White there. The boss is, when you do core shots, the reason why Pierce is good here. So Alice is also not a bad option actually. I think one of our people had like Alice as a backup to deal a lot of damage in there. His like Snow White Maxwell did like 1.4, and then he had like a separate Alice comp that was like 1.1 bill. But the idea behind it is when you're doing pierce shots on the core, you do double damage. You hit the core and you hit the body parts. I guess it's not double damage because one is a core shot, but you do an extra basically body damage because of that. So this boss is actually pretty effective using Pierce. So Alice, Snow White, and Maxwell are pretty good here. It just happened that majority of us like use Snow White Maxwell because a lot of us do have that invested. You could use bunnies. I mean, like that's just like if you're kind of struggling to survive, or I guess that's what's left over. It really depends. But yeah, this is where you guys can also start using your summer helm. You could use novel and summer helm also, like summer helm being the 5th unit, and you burst with novel. That also works. But yeah, anyways, that is it. That's all like the teams that we have used, the general strategy, and I think we have talked about all of these bosses also in the previous videos. You guys are probably just gonna have to dig the channel, I guess, if you want to see the different ones. I'm not sure if I actually showed the fight for all of them, and I think there are some that I just kind of talk about just kind of like this. But at the end of the day, I give you guys the TLDR, the teams that I used, and the general strategy. Now that's gonna be just a good luck for the rest of you. I am signing off for after like 12-hour stream. GG's boys. I've been up for 13 hours doing Union Raid, but at least we finish it. Coordinating with people. I'll wish you luck. See you guys. Say bye, YouTube chat. Not even 24 hours? Okay, buddy. Listen. Bye, YouTube. Alright, I'll let you guys say your bye-byes, I guess, and then we'll cut it there. Alright. I'll just cut that video, I guess, and all in one, just go one through. No, Jay, we're gonna cut you. We're not gonna include you, Jay. We ended at Jeff. We ended at Jeff. WTF. Sag. Fine. I'll include you.